Welcome to Talks with the Invisible Gardener. I'm Andy Lopez, your host. This is where we dig into soil health and learn how to grow smarter organically. Ready to clean up your garden and the planet? Let's go. Don't panic, it's organic. Hi everybody, it's Andy Lopez, Invisible Gardener. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking to you about whiteflies, how to control whiteflies organic. Stick to the end and I have a secret for you. So it says organic ways to control and get rid of whiteflies. Okay, you all ready? So today I'm going to cover 10 methods of how to control whiteflies effectively. These are all pretty much standard methods that you'll learn about. Everybody tells you the methods, so I'm going to cover those. But I'm also going to cover it from my point of view too, right? So one of those easiest ways is to introduce natural predators. So there are a variety of different creatures that will eat these whiteflies, from ladybugs to lacewings, there are parasitic wasps. There's tons of other creatures that would love these whiteflies. And as a matter of fact, the ants also have a thing to do with the whiteflies as well. So you can get a wide variety of predators. You just have to be careful. Problem with using natural predators is you don't want to kill them too. So if you're using any kind of natural sprays, that will probably hurt them as well. Like, for example, insecticidal soap. So if you're going to use insecticidal soap, you do not want to have predators around because they will suffer also. So personally, what I would do is lay off other predators until you're sure that you can't control it, and then you can spray it. Then you can bring the whitefly, the predators around. You can't really do both, okay? Because the insecticidal soap will suffocate your predators as well. So insecticidal soap is very easy soap to use. You can go to the store and buy, there are lots of variety of natural soaps that you can use. I often tell people they can also go get some natural flea soap, like for dogs, because they're all natural ingredients, are organic, and they have a little pyrithium in it, which gets rid of all these plants as well. I myself like to use the Dr. Bronner soap because they have almond, eucalyptus, pennyroyal. They have, a bunch of other different varieties. And that's Castile soap. All you need is the trick is to learn how much soap to add, because if you do too much soap, you'll burn it. And then there's a bunch of other things you could use that you can get if you're into getting a wide variety of things. I know most people, they like having all these different things available to them. Neem oil is an excellent example, for example. Again, you have to learn how to use a small amount. Use the law of the little bit, because it's very important to not overdo it. If you do overdo it, then you will damage your plants. Same thing with the soap, same thing with the neem oil. So just follow instructions on the label. It tells you exactly how much to use. I myself use a smaller amount than they tell you to, because I also follow the law of the little bit. That's my thing. I call it the law of the little bit. Because like homeopathic medicine, a tiny little bit, all you need is the smallest amount that would work, right? You don't want to overdo it. And then there's sticky traps. These traps the whiteflies are attracted to because of the color yellow, but they're also attracted to, what's one of the things that attracts plants is attracts the whiteflies is the color of the plants. And that's one of the part of the secrets I'm going to be revealing to you down the road, because the healthy plant looks different than a weak plant, and it's a weak plant that gets attacked. And of course, companion planting is one of my favorites. There are many different types of plants. Marigolds, for example, that you can plant around your vegetables, and they will naturally repel the plant. And also, too, you can make a tea from those plants. It's like the marigolds. You get some of the leaves or the flowers, crush it up, let it sit in water in the sun for a few hours, and then strain it out and spray. The only issue with that is if you're spraying fruit and vegetables, what I would do is spray the area around the plant so that bugs they will smell that first. I don't think I would spray my vegetables with marigolds. And nasturtiums, I would, because I like to taste it. It depends on the taste, because they will change your taste. You go, this tastes like smells like marigolds. And citronella is another herb that you can grow. And citronella, again, any of these things that you use if you spray the plants with it, it will smell like that. But you can plant them around, but they would also, if you planted for example, if you plant too close to citronella, I did that one year, and I put that lettuce all the way around my citronella plant, and I put citronella plants all around. Yeah, I put lettuces all around one citronella plant, right? And they all tasted and smelled like citronella, which wasn't such a good idea, right? So this again, these things the citronella. Mainly, what I would do with these companion plants is have them spread out throughout the whole garden, so the whole garden has companion plants, and the whole garden is protected. You can learn how to have things how far away to have it from the plant that's still effective and yet doesn't smell like it. But again, stick to the end. I'll tell you exactly the main reason why they're attacking. Now, the reflective mulch is a really cool one to use because it confuses them. Their sensors will pick up all these speckles and the sun shining back at them, and they will no, I can't find it. They have to find the plant first, because remember, bugs use their specific eyesight that genetically have been bred to. They grow genetically, and their eyesight determines the color of the plant, which tells them what to eat. And that's part of the secret. So if you make it so they can't see the plant, they won't find it. And that's one way to control it. And now here's a good part. The healthy plants don't healthy plants don't panic. I like that. Well, and as well, water is a strong plant. But remember, one of the problems I tell people, the more stress a plant is under, the more pests. And I like to say the higher the stress, the greater the pest. So just remember, city water is not good for the plants. That's part of what I'm going to be talking to you about towards the end here. And I'll tell you why. And so overwatering is one of the problems. The reason why overwater doesn't work so well on plants is because it drowns the roots. The roots are in water too much, and the biology cannot survive underwater for too long. That these creatures under there are the ones that are feeding the plants, and they're in water swimming around. The plants will not get the minerals that they need, and therefore they will get attacked. So the plant health is the key to it, really. You can clean up the diseased leaves; they won't come back. Air circulation, the proper pruning, cleaning your tools is a very good one to make sure you don't pass any diseases around. Just remember that part of the plant health is what food you're giving to them, what you're feeding them, right? What kind of fertilizers you're using. And I'll talk to you more about that. And as I mentioned, Castile soap is pretty cool. Castile soap and garlic is another interesting soap because the soap is a wetting agency and it spreads the garlic. You don't really need Castile soap with the garlic. The garlic alone doesn't need a wetting agent. You make a liquid of it, you just dissolve a certain amount in water. A dash of soap makes it so it sticks a little more. But the garlic by itself can be used in lots of different ways. Garlic spray is cool, but what I've learned to do, and is really very interesting, is I would plant, for example, plant some garlic along the base of the tomato plant. The garlic gets absorbed by the tomato plant as if you were spraying it. You're just going to have to like the tomatoes that taste like garlic. Same thing with lettuce, same thing with anything. If you want the garlic to protect, the best way is to grow it right next to the plant, like a companion plant. Garlic makes an excellent companion plant as long as you don't mind the taste of the plants tasting like garlic. I've done that with apples. I've done that with citrus. I've done it with a wide variety of plants that would get attacked by flies and stuff like that. They would not touch them because they smell and taste like garlic. So garlic is a perfect way. Yeah, whiteflies hate garlic, right? Because it's the garlic has sulfur in it, and sulfur is one of the things that kills them. So one of the things I like to use is coffee. It's actually what's called it's cold brewed coffee. Cold brewed coffee is a certain way that they make coffee, and then when you buy it, it'll say contains 40 cups of coffee. Because it's a concentrate, right? And so you have to learn how to use it in your water because you can't really burn with it, but you just because you can. For example, I have used it straight. A lot of times when I find that really bad infestation, I can just, in my sprayer, use it straight. I also use it as a barrier. So what I do is I get about 4 or 5, one day about 10 cups of those cold brewed coffee, and I put it in my gallon sprayer, and I sprayed all the way around the edges of the property. Those squirrels were coming around. I was getting all kinds of creatures. I would spray it. I poured one bottle of coffee into the gopher tunnel, for example, and they smell the coffee. The type of coffee you get is also important too. So I would get vanilla coffee. So if they have cold brew coffee, you have a choice. See if they have the vanilla, because vanilla is also toxic to lots of the insects, and it increases the effectiveness of the coffee. Okay. And then this is the part that I like, because the biological tea is really part of the trace of the secret is trace minerals. Whenever your plants are being attacked by whether disease or a pest, you're having a trace mineral deficiency. And so if you're making really good compost and you're including different sources of trace minerals in there and you also have worms. That's why I use a worm farm, because a worm farm will the worm castings is excellent trace of minerals. It's full of trace minerals as it is right there, see? But if you were to use the liquid, then you have the biology that comes from the worms. What's the minerals? So what I like to do is to feed the biology to the minerals, feed the minerals to the biology, so that they uh, will transform that food into into nutrition that can be absorbed by the plants. So remember, whenever the plants are being attacked, whether disease or pest, the real cost is a trace mineral deficiency. You can get a trace mineral deficiency by overwatering. You can get a trace mineral deficiency by not having any biology in the soil, because no matter what kind of organic fertilizers you have, no matter what kind of organic sources or trace minerals you apply to the soil, it's not going to be broken down, because you need the biology to break it down and make it available in a form that the plants can use. That's one reason why it's really good idea to spray the trace mineral. That's why you want to spray the biological tea. The reason you're spraying the biological tea is because one has certain types of biology in it, and two, it should be rich in minerals. So I'd like to tell people biologically, minerally rich tea is what you want to make. So if you don't put any trace minerals in your compost, for example, it's not going to pass on to your tea, right? And so I would rather add everything to the compost and make the tea rather than add the stuff to the liquid, because you can overdo it. Remember, it's called trace minerals for a reason. If you overdo the trace minerals, then it becomes toxic. So the real cause is, don't just treat the symptoms. There's a law of cause and disease, of cause and effect. Law of cause and effect. People are just using, when you spray, when you're doing any of these treatments, you're dealing with the effect. You're not dealing with the cause. Okay? The cause is a trace mineral deficiency. Not exactly a lack of trace minerals, because you may have lots of trace minerals, but there's 96, 98 different trace minerals you'll need, and you miss just a few of them, you're going to have the problem. Okay, so that's the secret right there that you need to learn. And as soon as you key into that, you won't have these problems in the first place, right? So whenever your plant, whether it be tomato, or whether it be like for example hibiscus. So hibiscus are notorious for getting whiteflies, because they require certain conditions for them to be healthy. And so if you have a hibiscus tree in the shady plant, they're not getting enough sun. All plants need a certain amount of sun. That's why when you get into gardening, like, for example, tomato plants needs 8 hours of sun. And every vegetable requires a different amount of sun, which helps in the photosynthesis and converting food. But they also they're very susceptible when certain trace mineral is deficient. And in a Wi-Fi case, it's really easy to be deficient in calcium. Calcium is number one deficient trace mineral, that if plants don't have calcium, they're going to get a disease, because calcium makes all the other trace minerals available. And what causes the calcium deficiency is the pH level of the soil. So you want to know what pH of your soil is. There's a certain range that the biology lives in, and that's 6.65 to 6.8. That's the range where the biology that you want lives in. So if your pH is below that or above that, you have to do something different, because your biology won't be there, right, to give them the food. And what you really need to do is that's where making your compost comes in. That's where adding the trace minerals and everything. So if you know what your pH is, you're going to be deficient in it. And in the soil, that's why you have to do foliar feeding. That's why you have to make, whether you use compost or use worm tea, they need to have the trace minerals in there. Don't rely on the soil providing it, especially if your soil is not the right pH. So you want to get a pH meter. See what your pH level is. You're going to find here in California, for example, 7.4, 7.2, 7.4, 7.6, really high. And so the biology does not survive in that particular environment. So I think that's going to be it for today, guys. I think, like I said, feed the soil, not the bugs. I learned that early on in my youth. I was reading Organic Gardening magazine, and the author said there, feed the soil, not the bugs. Actually, and this is a very clever way of saying feed the soil, not the bugs, because in essence, the bugs are going to get your food. So the article was basically saying feed the soil, not the plants. See? And so that's the truth. That's the reality. You really need to have a healthy soil. In order to have a healthy soil, you need to, first of all, you have to stop using chemicals. Chemicals destroy the biology. City water destroys the biology. You need to get a whole property. You don't have to get a whole property, but ideally you should. Some people just go for the garden. Like people just do a house filtration system. Ideally, you want a whole property filtration system. There are many good ones on the market now, but that kills the biology. Anything that kills the biology means you're going to have a problem down the road because the biology is not there. So immediately what you should do, if you assume you have a soil problem, okay, send the soil off to a lab test, and they'll tell you, oh, this is what what happens is when you start using chemical fertilizers, the salt builds up and destroys the biology, and you have a continuing problem. So every time you go to the nursery and you buy a plant, a vegetable, and you bring it home, it's grown chemically. You need to say it's grown organically because you know it's going to be grown chemically. You bring in the fertilizer right along with that, and it's destroying your soil biology. See, right? So if you're organic, you should really stick to your organic heirloom seeds as opposed to going anything that's grown chemically, because you try to grow it organically, it won't work. So that's it for today. Thank you guys for showing up, and please, we'll be back next week. I think we're going to be talking about sooty mode. So if you have that, stay tuned. Bye now. But don't forget to like, share, and follow. Okay. Thank you. Bye. It's been great. I'm Andy Lopez. Thanks for hanging out with me on Talks with the Invisible Gardener. If you like what you heard, hit follow, drop a like, and leave a comment. I actually read them. Want more good dirt? Visit invisiblegardener.com. And remember, don't panic, it's organic.